All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Mike Price, Top Producer Series. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing a good friend of mine, David Lewis. Hello, David. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. What's going on, man?
Man, we are just living the dream here. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I've known David for quite a while. David and I have done business together. David is not only a top producing real estate agent, he has a top producing team in the Atlanta area market with Keller Williams Realty. David also has multiple other businesses. I believe you got 8 businesses now. Is that right?
Yeah. It's been a busy couple of years.
And then, you're just pretty much out there sharing with folks, pouring into folks. So, David, without any further ado, just tell everybody about you. Welcome to the show. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for that great introduction. So David Lewis. I'm the owner and lead agent of the Lewis Group. We operate, in Atlanta, right alongside Mike, and I like to believe we are the best real estate team in Atlanta. So sorry for all the other realtors that are listening, and Mike is on the call, but doesn't get any better than us. So,
Right.
the Lewis Group Atlanta. This year we expanded into Savannah. So we have the Lewis Group Atlanta. We have the Lewis Group Savannah. I got into real estate in 2014, so roughly about 7.5 years ago, and first transaction ever was April of 2014, and fast forward to now, and we typically float between 200 and 300 transactions a year, and between 70 and 80 million in sales volume. So a lot of growth during that time, and a lot of mistakes, a lot of big wins, and yeah, so it's been quite a journey. And you mentioned the business owner thing, right? So real estate's the biggest land of opportunity you can find, right?
Yeah.
So as I've been going through this growth and these transitions and growing the business, all these other opportunities have stacked up, whether it be the coaching company or the marketing company or our renovations company or uh, our rental holdings company, the title company, like all of these things that are just kind of exist within this world. But opportunities are created, and real estate's one of those industries that gives you enough room to kind of like find what you want to do and to really go for it.
So real estate, you got in real estate thinking, hey, I'm going to sell houses and help people buy and sell homes. And, one of the biggest financial decisions people ever make. But this has spawned into 7 other businesses or income streams, right? Tell us a little bit about, how that happened, organically. I mean, these people you meet, do these opportunities come to you? Did you create these yourself? How did you get into all these different businesses?
Yeah, so it's a really good question, and it's something I'm pretty passionate about because we so real estate's a conversations game, right? It's a conversation business, right? You're building relationships constantly, and like the most successful realtors and the most successful people in real estate understand that it all starts with talking to people,
Right.
right? I tell people all the time, if you're willing to talk to 1,000 people a week to tell them that you're in real estate and check the boxes of like how do I bring value to them, and ask them what I can do for you and ask what you can do for someone, you'll make millions in real estate.
That's right.
But when you're having those conversations and you're building those relationships, you open up other opportunities, right? When I was first starting, I would get these opportunities for flips, right? And I kept giving them to these investors, and I was like I should probably keep these, right? So the renovations company was born, right?
Yeah.
A little bit further along, and all of a sudden I started getting these really good buy and hold opportunities, and I would call these investors and say, hey, I got a good opportunity for you. And I was like, well, what if I just keep them, right?
Right.
So the rental holdings company was born, right? I kept using title companies, and I was like, well, what if we had a title company, right? So what, like, all these different things are born like out of these conversations,
Right.
right? If you really have that entrepreneurial spirit and you're actually willing to like take a step back and not just go, well, how could I carve out my piece of this? And what's interesting about most of these companies, so I'm part of an ownership group of a boxing gym, right? And we're actually launching this weekend. Shout out to Pepper Boxing in
I saw
Buckhead.
that. I saw an
Yeah.
ad for that. So that's you, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
us, right? So Pepper Boxing in Buckhead. It's actually free this weekend. If you guys want to check it out, you can check it out. Follow any of my socials, and you'll see it's all over the place, right? But come check us out, launching this weekend. But that's honestly the one business that's outside of the real estate world, right? Everything else is real estate adjacent, right? Like my coaching company. Well, I got really good at taking individual agents and helping them go from 0 to 6 figures, like in year 1. So I started coaching people and helping people to do that outside of my individual team, right? The Lewis Group Savannah was launched solely out of a connection that I had, right? And we'd built such hard and like strong systems like within our world here that it was pretty easy just to drop a pin in Savannah and kind of like build it out there as well. So it's all adjacent, and honestly, it's just a product of being opportunistic and willing to get a little weird sometimes and like figure out, okay, well, how can I fit in this space too?
Well, real estate is relationship, business is relationships, and you've done a great job at this because I've known you for a long time of building relationships, and even building relationships with the realtor on the other side of the transaction. And that can also spawn into other kind of opportunities. And I remember the deal we did, it was a way back, and you used an escalation clause, and I think it was probably the best escalation clause I had ever seen. And you're like, hey, and I want to even see if once somebody beats us, I got to see that. And I think you won the deal. And I was like, this guy's pretty sharp. And so also to touch back on your comment when you started your rental company, the majority, and I've got rental properties, the majority of realtors out there don't own rental property. And we as realtors go into these properties and we just want to list it and sell it and help and not thinking, why don't we buy this ourselves? And so tell me a little bit more about that. As you accumulating these properties, is that how it happens when you go into a listing? Are you looking at it as is this going to be in my portfolio, or am I selling this?
Yeah, I'm looking through everything at that lens, right? Or through that lens. And like, as we grew bigger and, we've got, close to 15 agents now. And, we've had as many as 25 agents and 30 agents, right? So like, as the bigger you get, the more opportunities come across your desk, right? So I let my agents know at a pretty early time when I decided that was a focus of mine. I said, hey, like any opportunity that you get, put it on my desk first, right? Because we want to run it through that filter first. Is this something I should buy? Is this something one of like our partners should buy? Or do we want to go the traditional route? And honestly, like the industry has shifted a little bit. Like when I first started, I never would have thought that people valued convenience over cash, right? Oh, yeah. I was like, I love cash. That's pretty much everyone loves cash, right? And what I've realized with like Zillow is a little different these days, but over the past couple of years with all the knocks and the open doors and the Zillows, like I was like, no one's ever going to take these deals. They're 15, 20% below market in some cases, and like, why would they? Lo and behold, people started taking them left and right. And I was like, okay, well, there is a market for people that do value convenience over cash, right? So I started to take that kind of approach, and I would go make offers on these products. Say, hey, look, we can list it traditional. Here's what you would make. Here's what I'll buy it for, right? We'll back out all these things, and you can pick the closing date in the next 60 days, right? And if you need temporary occupancy, you can have it for 60 days. I just created this template for an offer that's so uber flexible that it is the most convenient thing that they could take. Don't clean it. Don't do anything. Don't show it, right? Take what you want, trash it on the way out. I don't care, right? Stay in it if you want. Like, you want the cash now, we'll close and you can stay in there for 2 months, like whatever. And that was how I got in, right? And I was able to build, like, I went from having, 0 to having like a portfolio of 10 or more homes, right? In a very short period of time by leveraging those relationships. And and also too, I don't know if there's mostly realtors listening to this. I would imagine we have a bunch of people in real estate listening.
Probably, yeah.
In Georgia, with the right lender partner, there's a very big advantage you can take, right, by applying your commission to down payment, right? Yes. So a lot of these times I'm buying these homes, right, getting financing, buying these homes, and I'm applying a large percentage down. Like, so my actual cost to buy these homes is like very, very little, right? But now I've created this portfolio that produces $70,000, $80,000 a year, not to mention the equitable growth, right? It's hard to preach this to our clients all the time. Like, hey, this is why it's amazing to own homes, right? Here's the equity. All the time, like in this developing market, we have a client that bought 2 years ago, sold, and he made $100,000. Yeah. Right. Now, what does that do for us if we have a portfolio of 10 and each of them are growing at 100 grand. Like, if you do the math, it's pretty great, right?
That's
So
right.
that's kind of my philosophy. And we
Yeah.
should all lead with that because we are the market experts. Like, we know this stuff and we have more opportunities than anybody else.
Well, owning real estate is probably one of the number one ways to create wealth, passive income, residual income, right? That's what we're all looking for. You said something about the convenience, and I went through the same mindset switch probably about 2 years ago. And, I was at a couple's house the other day, and they're retired, and, the house is paid for. And I was going through this whole thing about how I can get you more money and get you, and they were like, hey, stop you right there. We don't care about that. We're good with the regular price. We just don't want anybody coming through here, and we need to stay here for 60 days after we close. And I was like,
right,
perfect. So just like you said, people will take $20,000, $30,000 less for convenience in some places. So the rental market, your rental portfolio is booming. Your real estate team's booming. Tell us about, and I know that I kind of know the answer to this, but tell us, the people, about how you grew your team. Because I remember years ago when we were talking about another business opportunity, and you were going around and talking to folks. And I think at the time you didn't have a lot, and you grew a pretty massive team, which you've turned into your own team. Tell us how that works, how that started, how it happened, and what it looks like now.
Yeah. So there's this flip that switched, right? Where I was like, man, like, in this industry has a lot of opportunity, right?
Right.
It can be very lucrative financially as an individual agent. It can be very lucrative, in the ancillary opportunities that can be created. And so I realized really early on that, like, I want to go big, right? So, like, I don't think I've ever introduced myself as a real estate agent, right? It's always been, hey, I'm David Lewis, I own a real estate company. Right. So I was geared for growth from the beginning. The only thing was I had to figure out how. So I went on this 3 or 4 year journey of, like, because all the people that I knew who had big teams, right, that I would, like, surround myself with and ask them questions, they'd all been doing it for 15 or 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in year 2, and I was like, well, wonder what the biggest differentiator between them and myself is. And I was like, all right, well, it's probably 10 plus years of failure, right?
Yeah.
10 plus years of missteps and falling on your face, and wins too, but, like, learning the hard way. So I just tried to shrink that learning curve. I obsessively focused on reading books on leadership and reading books on business, and picking the brains of people who are way smarter than me.
Yes.
And like, hey, what'd you do wrong? Like, where did you, and through that, and through those conversations of figuring out, like, what's important to them, like, in the things that matter the most, I've really quickly realized, like, okay, great. Like, this is the blueprint to success and blueprint to growth. It doesn't mean I didn't fall on my face. I've fallen on my face tons of times in a short period of time. It honestly seems like I'm constantly falling on my face, because if they're spreading it out over 10 or 15 years, and those failures out in 3 years, man, like, it feels like you're taking a beating. But that was it. And then I realized I had to grow, right? Like, when you make the transition from an agent, where you, for lack of a better term, you eat what you kill, right?
Right.
So, like, it's when you make that transition through to success through others, it's different, right? Like, number one, there's a mathematic formula that you have to know, that when you start bringing your income through other people's success, like, it drastically changes when you do it on your own. But more so than that, like, leadership is different, right? Self-leadership is hard, right? But leading others is different, right? How do you deliver messages that can be received 10 different ways, right? How do you not only deal with, like, the hard knocks that come with your real estate career and the transactions that you do, but everyone else's, right?
Yes.
Like, it's just a different mindset. But for me, I flipped the switch, and I just said, hey, man, I'm going to build as big as I can, as fast as I can. And it's been a pretty wild ride ever since.
Well, to all the realtors out there who are listening, and this will go on, and this is recorded and saved on our YouTube channel, and you can watch it forever. Building a real estate team is hard work. It takes a long time. David just said it took many years to do that. It took me many years to do that. And it's many years really working hard, grinding, and getting to a point where you need leverage, and hiring the great people to work with you. And making bad hires is a huge failure, and it's on us, because we have to learn how to do it. But also, not being surrounded by the right people. And like, you and I have always wanted to be the smallest fish in the pond. We always want to be in a pond where we're not the top, we're not the apex predator. We want to be the smallest person, because that's where when you are around folks with bigger mindsets, that's when you grow. And I know that you have a lot of, partners across the nation, some big names in the real estate community that you partner with. And how important for those realtors out there, how important is it to be in some sort of relationship, mastermind group or something with people that are doing 5 and 10x what you're doing?
I mean, for me, like, it's the secret to success, right? Like, it's the thing, right? So when you start like real estate, like, so I'm a Keller Williams agent, right? So we have this post license course called Ignite, right?
Right.
It's the course that launches your career.
Right.
But when I was taking Ignite, I was sitting around and there were 6 people, all amazing people, all really great. I don't think many of them are still in the industry anymore, because that's the mathematical way real estate works, right?
Right.
8 people join today, 1 person's here a year from now, right? Like, it's just, it's tough. So, but you're sitting around and you guys are all brainstorming about how to be successful, but none of you have a clue.
Yeah.
None of you have a clue. So you start following down these paths of bad habits. And honestly, like, if you're surrounding yourself with a group of people that statistically says, more than 3/4 of them will not be there at the end of the year, like, it's not good. So I realized really fast, like, I got to find people who are smarter than me. So when
That's
I
right.
first started in my Keller Williams office, like, I would get there before all the big fish. There were these free desks in the hallway, like, or in like the middle, and I would like put stuff on the walls around it so people thought I was paying for it, and I would just listen.
Yeah.
And then, I would just listen to the things that they thought, and then I would make them hang out with me. I'd go and do masterminds with them, and I was like, well, I would like to make $100,000. I wasn't doing that previous to real estate, so how do I do that? So I found people that did it, made them hang out with me, and what you realize, the biggest difference is the things that they talk about, the things that are important to them, are things that you wouldn't have thought of. Right. Because there's a language of success at multiple levels, right? So at the $100,000 level, they're like, well, here's how you do here's how you next level an open house. I'm like, that's great. Right. So once my hustle and everything caught up and I was at 100,000, I'm like, that's cool, guys. You guys are awesome. I love you. Thank you for everything. I got to go find 250.
Yeah.
Right. So what do the people at 250 think about? All right. Well, at this point, they're starting to hire people. They're starting to need leverage. They're starting to figure out how to balance career and quality of life. Okay, great. Took all that in, hustle and grit got me there. I'm like 500, right? 1 million, right? 2 million, right? And now, like, I hang in a circle of people that are doing tens of millions of dollars, in gross commission a year. And I promise you that conversation is so drastically far from the one in the post-launch course, right?
Yeah.
Or the post-license course, that I don't think you can do it without it. Otherwise, there's 2 components, right? So you got to get rid of the ego. I mean,
Absolutely.
every one of the realtors listening on this call probably has their name on their sign, right? This is the most egotistical industry in the world. We're full of ourselves and we think we're the best, right? I did introduce myself as the best earlier. That's actually true. I don't think it, like, we are actually the best, right? But we do, right? We carry that ego. And a lot of times, like, there has to be some humility and, like, going to listen to other people and realizing, like, I don't have any of the answers.
Right.
I might be really good transactionally, but I don't know anything about running a business. I might be really good at being a buyer's agent. I don't know anything about listing excellence, right? Like, so, like, a little humility in finding people and just kind of say, hey, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn.
Right.
And people are receptive. If you find the right people, they will share with you and they will include you in their groups. But you have to put yourself in the room. I was I was telling this story actually to Gary Keller last week, right? We were doing this thing and I was telling him about, because we used to do these Keller Williams masterminds, right? And when you go, there's, thousands of people there and they group you into these big rooms based on production, right? So you have like a code. It'll be like a yellow star or like a green, green tree based on your production level. And you go into these rooms with people that are just like you.
Yeah.
So what I would do in these masterminds is I'd flip my card around so nobody could see it. I'd find the biggest producer I could find. I'd follow him into his room and then I'd get in there and just, it's like, I would talk and I would interact. And so all of those people thought I was on their level, right? And so they were treating me like so, but I got to observe and I got to sit. Like, you've got to be that purposeful about it, though, right? If you just sit around waiting for a top producer to invite you,
it's not gonna
happen. Yeah.
Well, a lot of the top producers, you and I both know some big producers all over the nation. And the conversation can get very complex talking to somebody who owns a team that does $600 million in volume and 800 units. That can be a very complex conversation. One of the things that I've noticed is these huge Goliaths in the industry, men and women, even though they're at this certain level, they still follow very basic principles. And the higher they get, the more intentional they are staying focused on the fundamentals and the basic fundamentals. Now if you own 12 businesses and you've got, you're making in hundreds of millions of dollars, there's a lot of complexity to it. But their day is structured about time blocking, staying your 20%. And so let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about David Lewis's day. I mean, you've got a real estate team. You're still you're still in production. You're always looking to hire people for your real estate business. You're looking to hire people for your other business. You're always looking for other opportunities. What does a day in the life look like for you from the time you get up to the time you go? But just an average day.
So it's going to be a little bit contrary, right? Like to what a lot of people would say, but my days, it doesn't seem like it this week, but my days, generally speaking, are pretty flexible outside of the things that matter the most, right? So like there's use this filter of like, what's the most important thing I could do, right? What actually moves the ball down the court based on my goals, and those things show up, right? Like, so my morning sales meetings, my morning huddles, right? My the weekly when all of our agents get together, right? Like that stuff's like very important. It's vital, right? Because it's the mothership. It's the thing that drives, this residential real estate team is the thing that drives these other opportunities. So that always takes priority, right? But outside of that, I schedule a lot of flex time, and that flex time fills up during the weeks, but it's stuff to make sure that I do have the opportunities to go do those other things. But if I didn't put that time in to focus on the thing that matters, and in different seasons, there's different things, right? Like, so, for example, we're launching this boxing gym, right? Like it's a priority this week, so it needs to show up there, but it doesn't ever show up in place of the mothership, which provided me enough money to be able to invest in a boxing gym, right? So we're in this industry, and just it's in human nature. Like, we are very good about chasing butterflies. Right. Yeah. We will do anything that we can to do the thing to not do the thing that makes us uncomfortable. Right. So you've got to make sure that, like, if that's our natural tendency, you've got to make sure that your calendar and schedule is different. Right. Like, you got to make sure that it's in there, it's set in stone, and you do the things that matter. Right. For an individual agent, it's conversations. Right. If you're not blocking out time to talk to as many people as possible about real estate, you just won't succeed. Right. If you're running a real estate team, it's leading other people into conversations, right? And working on the systems that matter, right? Making sure you don't get too separated from a director of operations or the people in your world, that you're connecting with them and talking to the things that matter. But yeah, it's got to show up on your schedule. It's got to be purposeful in the sense that you're doing the thing that matters the most, and it has to be constantly reevaluated. Right.
Well, what you said there, a lot of people, a lot of new agents, and I know you've seen a lot of new agents have been on your team. The word lead generation or prospecting has almost a negative connotation to it, and it shouldn't. And what you said is all it is conversations. Whatever it is, you just need to have conversations. If you're trying to find listings, you need to have conversations with people who are thinking about selling. If you're looking for buyers, you need conversation with people who are buying. If you're looking to start a business, you need to be talking to people who are in that space. Whatever it is, it's just conversations. And this is a contact sport. The more people you talk to, and the more people that you get with face-to-face, or a lot of times Zoom in our new world, the more opportunities you're going to have. And building a team is not just about the team owner being fabulously wealthy and retiring on an island. It's quite the opposite. There's a lot of expenses, but building a team is about creating opportunities for others. And any agent out there that's not on a team or is trying to get their business going or is on a team, latch on to someone who is doing it, and latch on to get into be purposeful, seek these folks out, get in the room with them. Like David said, you said you made them hang out with you. I mean, you didn't ask them, you just made them hang out with you. And that pays off. Success leaves clues. Don't try to figure this out on your own. There's a huge path of folks that have gone before you that have been successful. Start there first, and and then go from there. So with that said, David, what do you see some of the biggest mistakes that agents make? Say new agents, a new agent getting in the business. What's some of the biggest mistakes these folks make that kicks them out of the business in 2 years?
Well, it's number one, it's being lazy, right? Like, and laziness comes in lots of forms, right? Laziness doesn't necessarily mean that you're like sitting at home watching The Price is Right as opposed to working, right? Or that you're sleeping until noon, right? Laziness shows up in multiple forms. Like one form would be, oh, well, I'm not really doing the thing that matters by having conversations and getting out there and connecting and meeting with people, but I go to multiple classes a week, right? I'm the most educated non-producing realtor you've ever met, right?
Yeah.
I haven't missed a caravan, which I'm shocked that like caravans still even exist in the real estate
Yeah.
world. Like, it's so wild to me. But I haven't missed a caravan in 2 years, right? Like, that's lazy, right?
Right.
Like so that's the biggest piece, right? Is like people don't understand, like, you have to have conversations and you have to know like the numbers, right? Like, so you have to understand that I don't know, like people will pay for online leads, right? And like that's okay. Like whatever you can do to drive a conversation is fine, right? Picking up the phone is free, but that's fine. Like, so say you're using a service like a Zillow or a realtor.com or whatever service is out there, right?
Mhm.
For leads. We know statistically that the online lead conversion ratio is at best case 2 to 3%. Anyone who
Right.
tells you this more is like they're lying to you.
Right.
But so we hear that 2 and 3%, we go, yeah, that's cool. But we don't ever think about it like in actuality, right? If you get 100 leads, right, 98 of them are going to be garbage.
Right.
97 of them are going to be bad, right? Let's say you're kicking butt, like, and you have a 5, 6, even a 10%, right? Like conversion ratio. 90 of them are going to be bad. So what that means is that you have to go through 100 conversations. You have to be told no 90 times before you get any positive result.
Right.
But more often than not, like an agent would be like, no, I tried that. It didn't work. I was like, well, how many? 40. I'm like, well, obviously you're not playing the like mathematical certainty, right? Like it's not going to work, right? So knowing the numbers, knowing what it takes, and being willing to give it a shot. I've got my partner in Savannah, Amanda Huggins, who's a fantastic realtor, an amazing person, and just
and a stone cold prospector.
Yeah, but like she's amazing at expireds, calling expireds, right? Yeah. But she didn't know that she was good at calling expireds until she called expireds. And if she had given up after one day, she might not know about it, right? So it doesn't matter. I say it all the time, right? I don't like cold calling. Cool, don't do it. I don't like doing open houses. That's fine, don't do it, right? I don't like door knocking. That's okay, don't do it. But you have to do something. The answer can't be nothing, right? It's a numbers game, right? I can statistically, if you tell me how many closings you want, I can statistically backtrack it with all mathematical certainty and guarantee you how many conversations you have to get you to your goal.
That's right.
And even when I sit down with agents sometimes and I tell them with mathematical certainty, if you talk to X amount of people a day, a month, a week, I can guarantee you will have all the success you want next year.
Yeah. I mean, you and I were the guys, up until recently. I mean, not maybe a year ago, you and I know you, I was the guy who locked myself in the room and I just prospect for 3 hours straight, 2-3 hours every day. And I got hung up on and people telling me no. But like you said, and I tell people all the time, if you could talk to 1,000 people, if it took you 1,000 phone calls and it took you 40 hours in 1 week to make those phone calls, and you could make, and as a realtor, you can make $10,000, would you do it? Oh yeah. Well, then why aren't you doing that? Because that's how you get in touch with that many people. It's a numbers game. And, a lot of people, when you say they're lazy, I mean, I don't think people even think that they're lazy. I think that they feel like it's too hard to do the thing that they need to do to get here. And that's why it's the 80-20 rule. There's a lot of folks that are up here that have spent the time doing that. And I'll tell all new agents here, if you are not blocking out at least an hour and a half every single day to get into conversation with people you don't know, then it's going to be a really hard road for you in the future. Do you believe that, David?
Yeah. So, I mean, anyone on my team would, they hear me say this all the time, but real estate is really freaking hard. It is. It's not easy. It's an eat what you kill industry. If you don't kill anything, you make zero. You actually make negative dollars because the bills don't stop, right?
Right.
Like, so you actually go to negative. So, and I talked about the success rate in real estate, right? And this is a national statistic. If 8 people join today, one person's here a year from now and they're making less than $30,000. Like, that's a national statistic for most people, right? So I use this example of my team all the time. I call real estate the bridge of death, right? You are confronted with this bridge that you know that if 8 people walk across, 7 people fall and they die. They don't die in life, but their real estate career dies. So when you're faced with a bridge like that, do you just casually walk across it? No, like, you realize it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. You are purposeful about each step. You take the time to learn from and study the people who did successfully go across it, right? And you don't take a casual approach to it. You take a very purposeful approach to crossing this bridge of death, right? And it's an extreme example, but like, it couldn't be more true. Most people take a casual approach to their business, and then you get casual results, right? You've got to take a purposeful approach. And I have built something so big, right, that I can be a little bit more casual these days. I'm not, but I could, because the snowball has gotten big enough, right? People will now come to me with business as opposed to me. But in the beginning, when you're starting that snowball, when you're about to cross that quote unquote bridge of death, you can't take a casual approach, right? And I think that, like, and I use that extreme example for a couple of reasons, but number one, because I think it paints a perfect picture of how tough this industry could be. But it is that extreme, right? Like, most people who are trying fail, right? I told you, those people I kicked it with in my Ignite class 7 years ago, I don't think anybody's still around.
No, I don't know if anybody that's in my Ignite class is still in the business.
Yeah, but they all had aspirations. They all had good intentions. They were all great people. The only difference between me and them is I was willing to, door knock and walk around and put holes in my leather shoes from just failure wasn't an option for me. So, and that's not, and I'm very special. I'm pretty great, right? But that doesn't, what I'm saying is, like, that it's not because I'm special and because I'm great, right? It's just because I worked harder. It's just because I was purposeful. Every one of them, those people that were no longer here in my Ignite class, all had, they might have been better at being an agent than I am, because they're better people, right? Like, I'm a high D, high C. I'm very direct and to the point. Like, and if they just would have worked a little bit harder, they would probably have more success than I do, right?
Well,
but they just didn't work.
Yeah, consistency is, and I tell everybody all the time, consistency is the secret sauce. I will put somebody who is not that good, that's consistent, against somebody that's really good, that's inconsistent, any day of the week, because it's the tortoise and the hare. It's the consistency is always going to win in the long run. And a lot of people give up. Joel Osteen said one time, hey, he was climbing up a mountain, and he asked somebody, hey, where am I? How close to the top? And they go, hey, you're closer than you've ever been. And if people would keep that mindset, that when you're walking over that bridge and you're watching these steps, these people are falling. I'm not going to step on that step. That guy died. And you pay attention, and just remember that every step you're closer to your goal than you've ever been, and don't give up. And it may take 6 years or like 10 years for some of us, overnight success of 10 years. And it may take a year, but you'll never know unless until you get there, and you can't give up on the way. So, David, kind of in closing, if you had any advice for somebody out there that's either brand new, looking for a new opportunity, running a mega team, what kind of advice would you give somebody right now?
Find people that are smarter than you. Find people that had more success for you. And don't just go, because a lot of times, like, we look at someone and go, man, like, I really want what they have, right? I want the things that they have. That person's car is nicer than mine. Their team is bigger than mine. But the question we don't often ask ourselves is, what are the habits of that person?
Right.
Like, what is the daily behavior of that person? Because obviously it's got to be different than mine, because he has something that I don't have.
Right.
Right. We set these big goals and we say, I want to do 100 transactions this year. I want to do whatever. And we go, that's a great, and it's a good goal, but we don't think if I were to do 100 transactions a year, what habits would I have this year that would be different than last year? Because if I already had those habits, I would already have 100 transactions more,
Yep.
right? When you're setting goals, you have to look at two things, right? You have to look at where you want to go, and you have to take a really hard look at where you currently are, right? Out of assumptions, out of ego, just here's where I am, here's what I'm doing. If you're not doing anything, you got to do something, right?
Yep.
So it's find those people, figure out what their habits are, and then just rip them off. And not rip them off, but rip off the habits, like rip off and
R&D.
duplicate, right? Yeah, do exactly what they're doing. And the other thing is it's not so much that real estate. Another component of real estate that makes it really hard is simply that there's not many other industries where everything is 30, 60, 90 days out, right? So if you're having a bad month in real estate, I can almost always ask you what you were doing 2 months ago, and that'll tell you why you're having a bad month, because we equate today's activities with today's results. But this industry doesn't work that way. Everything is 30, 60, 90 days out, right? So people will come in and they'll lead you in really hard for a week, and they go, I don't have any more closings. Like, of course you don't have any more closings, but you started a funnel and you built a pipeline. And if you continue that behavior, right, for another 60 days, you will have closings from that days of effort, right?
Right.
So it's this giant feeling of, that's why it's such a roller coaster, right? People are always like, I don't have any business. Well, it's because you had a bunch of closings and transactions this month. You took your eye off the prize. You no longer talk to people about real estate. So now you're down this month. Right. And it's a vicious cycle. And some people simply can't handle it. Yeah. Right. But know those things, right? So find people smarter than you, hang out with them, stay mentally strong, realize that you're about to face this quote unquote bridge of death that's really hard, but it's not complicated. Talk to as many people as possible about real estate, and make sure you ask the most powerful question in real estate: who do you know that I should know? Right? Don't just talk to people, ask who do they know, build those connections, right? And success is really, really easy. Honestly, it is. It's simple. It's not easy. It's simple.
It's simple. Yeah, it's not easy. It's simple. Very simple path. Well, David, listen, once again, man, I appreciate your time. You and I have known each other for a long time and watched each other grow, watched each other fail. And it's been a great journey. And I'm looking forward to the next 7 or 8 years is watching how we both do this and, the business that we're going to create. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for giving us some insight about your businesses and how you're doing. And let's do this again probably mid-22 and see what it looks like then. How's that?
Yeah, sounds good, man. I appreciate the time. And if anyone ever wants to connect, they can find me on any of the social media, right? So at TLG Companies on Instagram, Pepper Boxing Buckhead. One last shout out. Free classes all weekend, right? Help this guy get his money back, right? Like, let's go out there. It is seriously one of the most revolutionary, best workouts in the city. We have a flagship location right across from the St. Regis behind the Whole Foods. Like, it's unbelievable. So everyone should go check it out. But
you ain't got the prime location too.
That's right. So yeah, everybody come check it out. If I can be of any service to any of you guys, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to connect with anybody, everybody. I love talking real estate shop more than anything in the world. So I'm always happy to do so. Mike, you're the man. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. David Lewis, TLG Group, Keller Williams, superstar. Hey, buddy, we'll talk soon, man. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, bud.
All right, bye-bye.